Empathy is one of the most important qualities that we can cultivate as human beings. It fosters a sense of connection, making our community feel more united and supported. It is what allows a community to become more than a collection of individuals. It strengthens families and friendships. It enables us to rejoice in another person's happiness without envy, and to enter another person's suffering without turning away. Judaism has never imagined that empathy is cultivated only in prayer and study. It's found just as much in the way we encounter one another as human beings. The Torah has a beautiful word for that way of living, chesed. Chesed is often translated as loving kindness or mercy, but the meaning in Hebrew is much more expansive. That's generally true in Hebrew. Hebrew has fewer words than English, so you end up with each word having a wider range of meaning. Chesed is love expressed through action. Compassion, that's I think the best word, compassion, that remains only a feeling is incomplete. The Torah describes God and the 13 attributes of mercy as Rav Chesed, abundant in compassion. That description is theological, it's also aspirational. The Torah asks us to become people whose lives reflect God's own character. The Torah commands, "You shall walk in God's ways." The rabbis ask how finite human beings can imitate an infinite God. The Talmud in Sota answers, "Just as God clothes the naked, so should we. Just as God visits the sick, so should we. Just as God comforts mourners, so should we. Just as God buries the dead, so should we." We become more like God through ordinary acts of chesed. Holiness is revealed in the way that we care for one another. Empathy is where that work begins. Before we can practice chesed, we must recognize that another person's inner life is every bit as complicated and fragile as our own. The purpose of Torah is to shape our hearts, not just fill our minds. Through honest self-examination, we grow in chesed and deepen our ethical living. Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto writes in Mesilat Yesharim, "A person must continually examine their deeds and supervise their ways every single day so that they do not abandon their soul to the habit of their conduct." The danger, he suggests, is habit. We become so accustomed to our way of living that we stop noticing how it shapes our relationships. The work of cheshbon hanefesh, literally an accounting of the soul. Cheshbon in Hebrew also means the check when you pay. So an accounting, so to speak. Again, a wide semantic range. The work of cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of the soul, awakens us to the possibility we can become more attentive to others. Sometimes that transformation occurs in a single moment. I remember my rabbinic ordination. How could I forget it? Rabbi David Ellenson, Alav Hasholom, placed his hands upon my shoulders and ordained me as a rabbi. As he performed this act upon each of us, tears filled his eyes. And those tears were not a lack of composure, they were an expression of empathy, of knowing how meaningful that was to each of us. Rabbi Ellenson understood that becoming a rabbi is not only mastering texts and acquiring knowledge, and man, could he do that. He had a photographic memory. I think he's really going to be the last genius of the Reform movement who knows that much material. And he was a sweetheart too. He helped me once when he didn't need to, which is really, I think, the judge of someone's character. It's not just acquiring knowledge, it's also allowing another person's life to matter to you. His tears taught me that scholarship matters, that learning matters, but if Torah does not soften the heart, then we have misunderstood Torah's purpose. The rabbis understood this long ago. They did not tell us to imitate God's power, they told us to imitate God's compassion. Just as God comforts others, so we should comfort them. Sometimes the only thing we can do is to refuse to let another person suffer alone. And now the text that started this whole chain of thought about chesed, a text by Rabbi Shalom Noach of Berezovsky, the Netivat Shalom. He explains why we do all these things. The purpose of Torah is to refine the heart. Study is never an end to itself. Prayer is never an end to itself. Every mitzvah is an opportunity for God to shape the kinds of people we become. As the heart becomes more refined, it becomes less occupied with itself and more capable of carrying another person's joys and sorrows. And that's the true measure of spiritual growth. Not whether we know more than we once did, but whether we love more deeply and notice another person's pain. Torah fulfills its purpose when chesed is embodied in the way we live with one another. In another text, the prophet Isaiah challenged a generation that carefully observed the rituals of religion while neglecting its moral demands. Is this the fast I have chosen, God asks? The answer is no. The fast God desires is one that feeds the hungry, welcomes the homeless, clothes the naked, loosens the bonds of injustice. Torah and worship find their fulfillment only when we connect chesed with action. That's why Judaism emphasizes community. We do not learn compassion in isolation. We learn it by visiting someone recovering from surgery, celebrating another family's simcha, or noticing who has quietly disappeared from our congregation. Every one of those moments changes both the person who receives the kindness and the person who offers it. Little by little, chesed ceases to be something we do, it becomes a part of us. Pirkei Avot teaches that the world stands on three things: on Torah, on worship, and on acts of loving kindness, acts of compassion. Torah teaches us how to live. Prayer reminds us that we live for something greater than ourselves. But Gimilut Chasadim, acts of chesed, bring both into the world. Without chesed, our learning remains in our books and our prayers remain within these walls. Maybe that's why Torah describes God again and again as Rav Chesed, as an overflowing, as a divine effulgence. Loving kindness is not simply one of God's attributes, it is God's nature. We're created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. The work of our lives is to reveal the divine image in the way we treat one another. None of us will do this perfectly. There will be days when we do not notice another person's pain. And that's why the work of Cheshbon HaNefesh, of taking account of our souls, is never finished. Every day offers another opportunity to walk a little more in God's ways. This ongoing journey can fill us with hope and a desire to keep growing in compassion and empathy. This Shabbat, may our study of Torah make us wiser, our prayers make us humbler, and our actions make us more compassionate. May this congregation continue to be a place where no one celebrates alone and no one grieves alone. May the chesed we show one another become one of the clearest ways that God's presence is made visible in our world. Shabbat Shalom.